So this is the second part of a talk on the four great elements and how they interweave through religions. So there's this interweaving of ecology and religion within religions, or science, you could say, science and religion interweave. And we can see that across all religious traditions, there are references to what we call the four great elements: water, earth, air, and fire. So in this particular part, what I'd like to share is a little bit about how Zen Master Dogen in the 13th century in Japan wrote about water, as well as how water is used within the Zen tradition, particularly in rituals. So let me share my screen with you. There we go. So where we left off last time was with this quote from Zen Master Dogen from Genjo Koan, where we see this kind of interpenetration between water and air. He says, when a person attains realization, it is like the moon's reflection in water. It's a very beautiful kind of way to think about the elements. And here he's blending two elements, water and air, or the celestial objects found in the sky, the moon. So these four elements, we can look at them separately. Each one separately has its own characteristics, but at the same time, they're interpenetrating each other. So the ways in which, we'll go back to that, some more sayings within Genjo Koan, but I want to just create a little foundation, because even if we don't look at this from a philosophical angle, we can see water being used in Zen rituals. For example, if you ever go to a Zen temple, you will undoubtedly see the image of a Buddha. And more often than not, there will be water offerings placed by the Buddha as a symbol of offering water to that which gives us meaning. And every day at my teacher's temple, part of my practice, before we even sat down to meditate, was to change all of the water offerings on the altars around the temple. We would gather up all of the cups that were filled with water. We would feed them to plants, and then we would fill them back up and put them out on the altar. So right there on the altar was a symbol of water. Right? Water is also used in precept ceremony. So any of you who have ever done the 16 Bodhisattva precept ceremony, there's a part in it where a water vessel, we take the officiant, the priest will take the wisdom symbolically from their own mind and dip it into the water 3 times. And then an attendant will take that water and with a sprig of pine, splash it on everybody, just a little bit of water, making a circle around. It's kind of pure, it's symbolic of purifying the space. And then the officiant receives that water vessel again and puts the wisdom from the water back into their own mind. But let's look at how Dogen uses words to really help us to appreciate this element of water. So I'm going to offer you several excerpts here from Genjo Koan, and Genjo Koan is a foundational text of Zen Master Dogen. It's one of the earliest texts that he wrote. He was in his 30s, I believe, when he wrote this. And some Zen practitioners say that if you can understand the Genjo Koan, you can understand all of Dogen's writings, because they what's in the Genjo Koan is reflected in all of the other koans. And I'm just noticing I spelled Genjo Koan wrong. There should be an O there, so please forgive me there. But let's look at the koan here. Let's look at the writing. If one riding in a boat watches the coast, one mistakenly perceives the coast as moving. I mean, think about it. If you've ever gone onto a boat, you push away and you might get the perception that the coast is moving away from you. If one watches the boat in relation to the surface of the water, then one notices that the boat is moving. Similarly, when we perceive the body and mind in a confused way and grasp all things with a discriminating mind, we mistakenly think that the self nature of the mind is permanent. Right? So here he's using water as a means to help us notice that there's no fixed self. Think about that. The element of water is being used as a reference, riding on a boat, and notice how water changes our perception. Water has the power to change. When you step into a boat, it's a little bit rocky, right? You're no longer on solid ground. The solid ground is fixed. The water is moving, right? Especially if you're on a boat. And in the same way, we identify with our body as this solid thing that almost doesn't change, kind of like the earth. However, if we look more closely, we can see that the body is more like this water, this body of water that when you step on a boat, you're in flux. That's the real nature of or that's one aspect, I should say, of the nature of this body-mind. The next part of this verse, I'm just kind of skipping around in the Genjo Koan, but he says, when a person attains realization, so I love this, it is like the moon's reflection in water. And then he says, the moon never becomes wet, the water is never disturbed. Right? When you see, if you ever seen a puddle at nighttime, maybe just after it rained, and then there's a clear sky and you can see the moon. And if you look down in the puddle, you can see the moon there. You should try that sometime. You could even see the moon in a drop of water. But the moon doesn't disturb the drop of water. And this is another way of expressing, using the elements of water and air to express the interpenetration of reality, that we're all related, that we're all connected. The water is in the moon is in the dewdrop, is in the water. It's reflecting. In the same way, our body mind reflects the bodies and minds of everybody here, but we're not aware. It doesn't disturb us. This is not something that, this is normal. So in this case, water is revealing the interdependent relationships of all reality. Another way to talk about this is that the macrocosm is within the microcosm. The macrocosm, being the entire universe, is within the microcosm, which is the self. Right? Or as Thich Nhat Hanh might say, that all things inter-be or inter-are. Dogen says, although the moon is a vast and great light, it is reflected in a drop of water. So again, using this analogy of the water, even the smallest things that we do matter, are important, right? The moon, such a huge celestial body, can be reflected in a drop of water. The tiniest things are even our smallest activities that we do, everyday activities, brushing our teeth, washing our face, putting on our shoes, cutting up a piece of bread or toast. All of these things are significant are vehicles for enlightenment. When the Dharma fills body and mind, one thinks something is still lacking. For example, when we sail on a boat into the ocean beyond the sight of land, and our eyes scan the horizon in the four directions, it simply looks like a circle. Right? Imagine that. Maybe some of you have been in a boat on the ocean, far from land, and when you look around you, all you see is water, and it appears. We receive the appearance of a circle. And this is one aspect of reality that Buddhism calls the oneness of reality, or the equality of all life being equal. But then in the next verse he says, this great ocean, however, is neither round nor square. It has inexhaustible characteristics. To a fish, it looks like a palace; to a heavenly being, a jeweled necklace, etc. So there is this sense of oneness and equality, and simultaneously, water reveals, in this case, the diversity and inequality of life, that things are both simultaneously equal and unequal, simultaneously one and many. He goes on a little bit further. He says, when a fish swims, no matter how far it swims, it doesn't reach the end of water. We should know that for a fish, water is life. So this element of water is presented by Dogen's foundational text, Genjo Koan. And so we can meditate on these verses if we'd like to. We can spend time meditating on each one of these verses and get something really deep out of them. What does it mean? This is all symbolism. When a fish swims, it's not just talking about a fish, it's talking about us, talking about our life. It doesn't reach the end. We have concepts of a beginning and an end, a birth and a death. But if you really look closely at birth, Buddhism says there is no birth. Where does it begin? And if you really look closely at death, there's no death. Where's the marker that says there is death? What do we count as life? What do we count as death? These are some questions that can help us to deepen our sense of appreciation for life. Okay, so closing this up, this is a quotation from Ecology and Religion, the book I've been citing from Mary Evelyn Tucker and John Grimm. They write, most religious communities value water as sacred, using it for ceremonies or of purification or initiation. And certainly that's true for Zen Buddhism. And Dogen uses it to initiate us into his, what's called the Shobogenzo, the true Dharma eye. And they close with this very helpful paragraph where they say, in the modern period in the West, we diminished these multiple relationships, that is with the four great elements. We've diminished this is why this is important. This is why they're saying this is important. Why I think it's important too is because in the West, we've diminished our relationship with these four great elements. Think about that. How often do we spend time really contemplating the value of water, of earth, of air, of sky? So we're making this concentrated effort right now to do that. So they say that in the modern period, in the West, in the United States, in Europe, maybe other countries as well, we diminished these multiple relationships so that religion became focused primarily on God-human relations and human-human relations. Right? There's a focus if you think of the word religion in the West, we associate it with God as an external being, or with human ethics, how humans should relate towards each other, but we don't necessarily connect it with the ecology that's around us. So they say human-earth relations were ignored or attenuated. The aim of the study of religious ecology is to retrieve, re-examine, and reconstruct these human-earth relations that are present in all the world religions. So I hope this has been helpful in getting a sense of this subject of ecology and religion and how it can be and is applied within the Zen tradition. Thank you.